Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Epic 7. Today is going to be an offline video because the servers are down. And I thought about what I could do without the game available. And one of the things I get asked about a lot is what to look for when you're re-rolling. There are a ton of new players playing this game every day, so even if this isn't meant for you, there's so many people that get help from this, and the more I get asked what people should be looking for in the selective, the more I'm happy, because that means so many more people playing this wonderful game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the options for rerolls, and I'm just going to give my thoughts on them and kind of rank them 1 out of 10 of how powerful I think they are for a reroll unit. And then at the end, we'll take a look at it and see if it lines up with what I thought in my head. So first off, we're going to take a look at Vildred. I copy and pasted this from another site, so I hope these are all correct and all in the right order. But here's Vildred, and he is one of the best to pick from the specialty 10 summon, the selective summon. I honestly think, looking back at things, I think he is possibly the best one to take. I'm going to give Vildred a 10 out of 10 for his reroll ranking right now. And the reason for that is just because he is pretty much the best farmer in the game. He's really good at PvP. He's really good at Guild Wars. He's really good basically everywhere. But the thing is, he's not so good at the parts that really matter. But I think by the time you get to the parts that matter, you'll have other people. Vildred's just there to make everything you do faster. So he makes your time you spend in-game so much more efficient. Like, if I started with Vildred instead of Araminta, as much as I like Araminta more, I feel like I would have farmed like 3 times as fast. Like, the difference in Vildred clearing stuff versus somebody else is just night and day. And I think if you have Vildred, he should be your first 6-star basically no matter what, just because of how much he improves your farming. So he is pretty awesome, so I definitely give him a thumbs up. So next up, we're gonna look at Charlotte. And Charlotte's a tough one. I'm not really sure what to say about Charlotte. I feel like she's a great unit, and she can do great things, but at the same time, he's just not the greatest. So I have a hard time recommending Charlotte. I have her just kind of sitting there. It just feels like there's so many units that kind of do what she does, but better. I'm just not really sure what to say about her. She also kind of needs one of the 5-star artifacts, being Elvis's Ritual Sword, to make her kind of excel. That's another thing that makes me kind of not too happy about her. I'm going to rate Charlotte a 4 out of 10 on the reroll, just because I love her to death, but you know, she is just, it's not quite good enough. Next up, we're going to do Bale and Cezanne, and Bale and Cezanne's kind of in the same boat. He does some cool stuff, and I do like him, but I don't think he's good enough, especially for the start of an account. He just doesn't quite do enough damage, doesn't quite do enough disruption for it to matter. So I definitely rank him on the lower scale of rerolling. He is fantastic for stuff like Golem, but in all honesty, you don't really need him yet. There might be things in the future that he's good for with all the debuffs he has, but I'm just not a big fan of him, and also a lot of people really don't like his design, so you can hold that against him too. I'm going to be rating Bale and Cezanne a 2 out of 10, and I'm going to be very harsh on some of these, as you can see. Next up is Rabi. And Rabi was the fan favorite at the start of the game. She was definitely the most recommended to pick from selective summons at the start, and I think that's definitely fallen off now. I do still think she's okay to great, but not my favorite. That said, she's a fantastic reroll hero or hero to pick on your selective summons because she really helps early game. And I think for stuff like Guild Wars later, she's going to be a valuable unit for almost any Guild Wars offense team. So it's hard to say stuff negative about her. A lot of people hate on her now, but I do think she's really solid without any investment really. So I'm going to give her a 7 out of 10. And I'm not sure what else to say about her. She's just underwhelming, but just not the best. Underwhelming, not the best, but still solid. It's hard to say. Maybe if she's paired with a good 4-star, and we'll talk about 4-stars after. But it is what it is. And next up is Iceria here. Iceria is, in my opinion, one of the best units in the game. She has enabling skills that just nobody else can do with her second skill, resetting somebody's cooldown. She also has insane defense break capabilities. She's just so elastic. You can go on any team. She's absolutely one of my favorite units in the game. Her design is amazing too. But the problem is, she isn't the best for rerolling for progression at the start. Her animations take forever. She's not very good on auto. And she's not very powerful early. The more powerful your teammates are, the more powerful she is. So because of this, I'm going to put Iseria at a... this is a tough one. You know, like, in my eyes, she's a 10 out of 10 to pick for reroll, but I know I'm kind of swayed in liking her skill set so much, and for a new player, she's not going to be up there for them. So I'm going to give her an 8, just because I think her long-term value is just so insane, and being able to have Iseria with all these new units, and for those always asking me about Iseria, why I promote her so highly, I've said for so long that she gains so much value with new heroes coming out, and we can just see that with Tamarin. Like, the value of Iseria with Tamarin together is this, like, nutso, like, so good together. So that just is proof that in the future she's going to get better. And next up is Sez. Whew, and Sez is probably up there with Rabi and one of the most recommended units to start with a long time ago, but times have changed. But I honestly don't think Sez has changed too much. I think Sez is still fantastic. I think he's still amazing for Guild Wars. I think he's still amazing for farming. Pretty much second to Vildred in terms of farming, and I think he's great everywhere. I think he falls off a little mid-game, but then he comes back late game. So I'm going to give Sez a 9 out of 10 here. A lot of people might be surprised at that because I haven't built my Sez yet either, but I honestly think he's fantastic for later game stuff, and I think he does a boatload of damage, and I think we should respect him a little more. So next up is Tywin, and Tywin is something else. Poor little Tywin here. So Tywin got a little bit of a boost with Wyvern 11, but I don't think that's anything you should really be looking at as a new player, and by that time, you'll probably have somebody better for it. There's not really much to say about Tywin outside of he just kind of does nothing. He's not really going to help your early game. He's not really going to help your mid game. He's not really going to help your late game. So he is one of the worst ones I think you can roll for IMO, and I'm going to give him a 1 out of 10. That felt bad. So yeah, we're going to give him basically the lowest score. I do like him, and I do think he's a valuable member to your team, but as for re-rolling, I just don't think it's something you should. And next up is Ken. And boy oh boy, Ken was RIP at the start of the game. Nobody really liked him. Nobody really thought he was good, and he wasn't. And then he got buffed, and then he got buffed, and then he got buffed. So now he is insane. I think he's one of the best 5-stars now, and I think he's great everywhere. Like, he's gonna help you out all stages of the game. Just an overall solid unit. I'm gonna rate him a 9 out of 10. For who to reroll for, just because of all the goodness he comes around. Reason why he's not a 10 out of 10 is because he does not get the farming done as well as Vildred does. Even though he'll perform in other places better, he just bus drives a little worse, a lot worse than Vildred. So that's why he's 9 instead of 10. Next up is my waifu, Araminta. This is the person I chose for my selective summon, and honestly, I wouldn't choose anybody else after taking her. She was fantastic everywhere in the game. She's just been all around good. Not amazing, but good, just about everywhere. I've used her for PvP, for Guild Wars, for raids, for golems, for giants, for those are the same thing, for Wyvern. I even used her for my first Banshee 10 team. I've used her everywhere. That said, she's not the best farmer. She has some problems with her AI that kind of make her a little worse of a farmer. And I do think she is slightly less good than some other people on here. So I'm going to give her a biased 8 out of 10. Perhaps that rating should be 6 or 7, to be honest. But with the versatility she gives and how good she is with some of the original free sets, I think she's a fantastic choice. Oh, and next up is Chloe. And Chloe really makes me sad. I have Chloe on my alt She was who I chose on my alt Selective, and she is super underwhelming. I love her to death. She's the ultra cutest, the most adorable, but she's just not very good. She's not very good at PvP. She's not very good at Wyvern even. It feels like she's not very good anyway. I mean, she might be, and I might just not have the team built around her yet. But she feels lackluster in Wyvern. She doesn't provide defense break, so it's hard to take her over a defense break. And she doesn't do as much damage as anybody else, so it's hard to take them there. It's really tough. She does do really well in raids, and she does do really well in other things, but I feel like if you're winning with Chloe, you'd be winning more with somebody else. So this is very sad. So we're gonna put Chloe down to a 4. No, a 3. Oh, I'm so sorry, Chloe. I'm so sorry. A 3 out of 10, just because I don't think she's very good. She makes me really sad that she's not better, but it is what it is. And next up is Bazaar, voiced by Matt Mercer. Hype on that. He's also got multicolor eyes. Hype on that too. And that's about it for hype on Bazaar. Bazaar is one of those units. I think that is kind of like Isaria, that the longer we get into the game, the better he gets. But so far now, he's not the greatest. He has an AoE Dispel, which is fantastic, but that's about it. And there's nothing else really special about him. He doesn't do enough damage. He doesn't do enough defensive stuff. He doesn't do enough disruption. He just doesn't do enough. Kind of sitting in the same spot as Bale and Suzanne, to be honest. And I'm going to rate him a 2 out of 10. If he was a 1, he should be a 1 out of 10 probably, but he's voiced by Matt Bazaar and he's got beautiful eyes, so he's up to 2 out of 10. At least I'm being honest when I'm biased. So next up is Ludwig. Or Ludwig. I don't know how to say his name, but I always get made fun of for saying it wrong. What to say about him? Ludwig is amazing and awful all at the same time. He's either going to be one of your best PvP units or one of your worst units. And the reason is he really requires other people to work with him, I think. You can watch YDCB's video if you want to see more Ludwig in action. But in all honesty, as a reroll unit, I don't think he's one to go for. I think he's really lackluster unless you have a specific team and a specific plan in mind. And I don't think he's going to help in PvE, which is what I think the first should be going for. So that said, I'm going to give Ludwig a 1 out of 10. And again, just to be clear, I'm going to mention this a couple times. This is not a ranking of how good they are. This is a ranking of how good they are as a reroll unit. So keep that in mind as going forward. I don't think he's 1 out of 10, but I do think he's 1 out of 10 for a reroll. So next up is Sigrid. And boy, oh boy, Sigrid's been in for kind of a rocky ride for a while. I really like her, and I thought she was really amazing, and she was great for Wyvern 10, and I felt like she was on my endgame team for Wyvern 10, and then they released Wyvern 11 and kind of negated her usefulness. She's still good there, but there's so many other people that can take advantage of Joker that it's hard to use her. Combined with Luna and Kisei being an option, it's just hard to fit Sigrid in now. That said, I do think she is still a pretty solid offensive unit. I think she has exceptional offensive capabilities and damage for most points of combat. I think she is pretty solid for PvE, so I'm going to rate her a, what did I rate Chloe? A 3, so I'm going to rate her a 5 out of 10. I'm being really harsh here, guys, but it is what it is. I think Sigrid's great, but I think she lost a lot of value. And next up is Destina, and Destina is another one of those hot topics. She was a 10 out of 10 at the start of the game, but people have come to find that people like Angelica are just better, unfortunately. And there was some arguments here and there, and sorry for keep mentioning Wyvern 11, that's just where the game's at right now. But there was so many times and so many reasons before I could say Destina and Acades and Angelica were interchangeable, but I think now with the focus on Wyvern 11, it really isn't the same. That said, what happens if they release something where we need an Earth Healer? All of a sudden, Destina is going to be number 1, and Angelica will be in the sidelines. So it's kind of hard to say. I do think Destina is still absolutely fantastic, and I do think she will carry your game for a long time. So I'm going to rate Destina as a 9 out of 10 as a reroll here, just because I think she is absolutely fantastic still, possibly not as good as Angelica, but it is what it is. So let's take a look at how these ended up. So what we're gonna do is sort them all here by column B, and we'll go A to Z. Oops, I didn't do that right. I forgot the header, but we can see how this works. We have it backwards, but we have Vildred first place. That's what I expected. Destina, Ken, and Sez all tied in second, which is kind of funny. Seeing Destina and Sez here. Araminta and Iseria tied in third. And looking at this, like, it's tough. I would honestly put Iseria 10 out of 10 beside Vildred, but since this is geared towards newer players, I think she'll be less useful to newer players. Then Rabi, and then everything else just super down there. Poor Tywin and Ludwig. So yeah, that's what I was thinking for 5-star characters. There's also, of course, 5-star artifacts, but I don't think you should be re-rolling for 5-star artifacts. I think they'll come. I think you absolutely should start with a 5-star hero. And then there's a lot of people that argue just to get Angelica, and that's something we'll talk about too, is we can probably just do this, right? Yeah, we can just switch to Angelica here. And honestly, Angelica is the most enabling unit in the game, I think. And if you're purely looking for power, you should probably just take Angelica over anything else. But I find that really unfun. And I find most people, I know people are angrily typing right now that they don't have Angelica, but most people are probably going to get Angelica within the first couple months. And by the time you get her, you'll be happy that you kept a 5-star at the start, I think. Because it's very hard to get a 5-star, but it's not so hard to get a 4-star, if that makes sense. So I would personally take a hit in power at the start to get a more rare unit, then to start with Angelica. But if you are planning to just get power and nothing else, absolutely just go for an Angelica 10-fold with some other fun things with it. If you can get any 5-star with Angelica, I would take that too. And overall, this is my list. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. These are my thoughts on the starter heroes. Anything not on this list, you cannot get in 110. So you cannot get Kisa, you cannot get Bellona, you cannot get Luna, obviously. You can't get Diane, obviously. You can't get Tamarin, obviously. So these are the only ones in contention for your selective summon. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe as always, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everybody.